Bases dropped on Soccer's morning show, and once again, quoting Hutch from yesterday, it's another round of suffering with the buffering. Did not leave South Alabama yesterday. We're leaving today. Jarrett, this is what happens when you go someplace and you're tasked with tearing everything down after it's all been built for the holidays. So, how much tearing down did you have to do?
I haven't torn anything down yet. God, that's coming though.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean,
This is why the Festivus Bowl is such a good idea.
I know, because it is singular. It is
the high strength to weight ratio.
Yes. And so all these little things that we don't necessarily think about until it's time to tear things down. I mean, think about it with movie sets. You know, you build a movie set to tear something down. That's traditionally how this goes.
Half the time you
Christmas,
build it to destroy it in the act of it.
Yes, and that's the thing. You build it once and you make sure you tear it down so you don't have to worry about it ever again, unless you want it kept on the back lot. But yeah, we had to basically return the family home here to its full upright and locked position, pre-holiday style. So that meant taking down all of the ornaments, take the tree down, put all the ornaments away, make sure that everything is in its box, and it is taken to the storage facility, which is about 20 yards uphill. And yesterday, once again, I was reminded why tennis shoes and wet wood never really combined very well. So that was a fun experience.
Next year, when you're there, you should ask for ask for some boots or something.
Insurance.
That too. Ask for some go all out for it. You're gonna make me do this. Buy me some Red Wing boots. Boots that'll last you 30 years. It'll take a while to break in a pair of Red Wing boots, but they'll survive a nuclear fallout.
Well, I mean, I've got a pair of Merrells. I just did, traditionally going up a ramp and down a ramp, when you're carrying plastic bins with ornaments and things, it works. But yesterday, coming down the ramp, took an absolute header, just wiped out right on my ass going down the ramp, and did not have anything in my hands. I had unpacked this particular load and was leaving the storage facility, the storage shed, and heading back downhill. And so wet wood, tennis shoes, did not go well. And gravity, yes. And so, it did not go well yesterday. And so there's going to be stuff added to the laundry several times over, but no, it is. That's why we're still here in South Alabama. We'll be back tomorrow, and everything will be back in the office, and we'll be back to something resembling normal.
Hearing of grievances will be grand. Do you ever think about the fact that when they're sifting through archaeological evidence and they're going to find that episode and they're going to think, oh my God, they had this entire religion built around this Jerry Stiller character.
Yes.
And we're going to go, yeah, you're right. He did. He did impact an entire generation of American TV watchers.
Uh-huh.
They're gonna if our last act before the nuclear fallout that burns Earth into a crisp is not to build a high melting point resistant statue of Jerry Stiller, that probably should be the last one, just so we can throw them off a bit, because not enough societies and not enough cultures use their last moments to misdirect future archaeologists. You got to have a little fun with the people who come after you.
Yes. So that's I can't. Yeah, how much of the airing of the grievances did you have? I mean, I don't think we necessarily had folks around long enough for there to be airing of grievances. Because traditionally, you want to be in one place for quite some time, and you want to sit there and get everything all laid out, and then you want to have your airing. But we didn't necessarily have enough time in one space to have a sufficient airing of the grievances.
Yeah, ours was short lived. I tell you what, ours was Christmas night. We went to my wife's family's. We just kind of hit everybody throughout the entire holiday break. At that one though, we have abandoned white elephant, and
Okay.
what we do now is a game where we all put in like $20. Each person puts in $20 instead of buying a white elephant gift. You give your money, and you one person who you trust goes and uses that money to buy a bunch of like random small but useful things.
Okay.
Then they put all those things together and they wrap it with like an entire thing of saran wrap.
Oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah, and then you put on the oven mitts.
Oh, okay. We don't do the oven mitts. That might be another interesting element to it. But what we do is the boss's sister is in charge of getting all of the stuff that goes inside, and then the saran wrap. She wraps it from the inside out and takes the saran wrap, and we'll add. And it starts off with candy and the small things, and the candy goes flying everywhere. And then the deeper you get inside the saran wrap ball, that's when you really start getting the cool stuff, like the Candyland game and the socks and all these kinds of things. And so we do it with dice, and you roll until you get doubles, and then you have to stop. But everything that you've unrolled, you get to keep, and then you have to pass the saran wrap ball around to the next person. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, same. And I know it's not like there are other people who do it. But if you don't do it, I'm going to recommend it. It's actually a lot of fun. Oven mitts optional. The oven mitts make it. It depends on the oven mitts you get. If they're like cloth, you're really up a creek. But also the oven mitts that have traction are deceptively unhelpful because you're going to stick to that saran wrap and you're not going to be able to find the edge. Plus, you gotta make sure that the person you're next to is the unluckiest SOB in the room. You want someone who could not roll doubles if you gave them 10 years. You want the Shaq at the free throw line version of somebody trying to roll doubles.
That's one of our nieces. Yeah, one of our nieces definitely. You end up with you end up with that individual, and the person to her right ends up getting all the cool stuff. So that's literally how it goes. We do have a couple of news and nuggets this morning involving Atlanta United.
Pretty tough.
Well, I mean, just the stuff that we saw yesterday. We'll keep an eye on that. And then,
okay, I haven't looked at the internet this morning other than to see that Jeff Schultz is retiring.
Yeah, and so Sarge is retiring after 42 years in the biz. So we got the little nugget yesterday involving Joseph. Parzival's got a question. Good morning, Harry, Alex, and Pars, and thanks for hanging out with us day after Boxing Day. So the layout this morning is we got a lot of stuff involving Manchester United. We've got a lot of stuff, obviously, since they were playing yesterday. We do have some stupidity down here. We do have some gamesmanship down here. And so we'll get into that. But obviously, there's a lot of stuff involving Manchester United. Joseph may have a home. That was what we kind of stumbled across yesterday. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. Pars has a question. And then my question to the floor, and it can be today, tomorrow, and Friday. So it could be a lengthy thought process. So what will you carry with you from the year in a soccer sense? When I mention 2023 in soccer, what will stick in your mind? So those are the questions this morning. And that's kind of where we are.
It's that I somehow did not appreciate Ange Postecoglou enough. And I was ready to go to war for him and put him on the U.S. national team as manager. And yet somehow I underappreciated him because of what I'm having to watch on a weekly basis in Glasgow.
Yeah, and now Christian Romero might be out for 4 or 5 games for Spurs to add to their injury woes. We were talking about it yesterday with Prem and Proper, the review. Maddie could have, and Alex could have, sorry, both of you, an all-injured starting 11 and a starting 11. And so you've got that to look forward to with Newcastle. And so all that stuff, that's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and youth initiatives and stuff that they have earmarked. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So yesterday, it kind of it trickled through courtesy of a South American source who looped back to a source here on this side of the world. Josef Martinez may actually have a home, but obviously, you can't say that you've got a home when you're still under contract with Inter Miami to the end of the calendar year. So technically, all the talk is coming from our side of the equation, all of us media types. And it appears through sources in South America that Internacional might be the new home of Josef Martinez to the tune of almost $5 million a season.
And so it's good money if you can get it.
Yeah. And so that came across the bow yesterday. And so Internacional and Josef, they're looking to make the announcement, in the middle of January. And so what you would be experiencing in Internacional is obviously a slower pace of play, but a more physical pace of play. So once again, check your sources. This time of year, we're getting to that point. We're getting to the point where when we have Monday on a Tuesday next week, it'll be January 2nd. Window opens up. Check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. We'll remind you that on Tuesday as well. But, in this particular situation, Josef could be heading to Internacional. And Shooter, I'm not going to post what Shooter said because he started with a couple of magic words. He says, why can't we get him? Our forwards suck.
You know what? It might actually kind of work in Caleb's system, where it doesn't have, where you might not have to defend as much on the front foot.
Sure.
Once again, with Josef, I will eternally just blame the trash turf in Nashville.
Yeah.
At Nissan Stadium, because he's not the only one that Nissan Stadium's turf is claimed. Claimed a couple NFL guys this year as well. The playing surface just is consistently, for grass, is consistently very bad. And that injury really restructured the entire pace of his career and derailed a lot of it, and still sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, if you can get $5 million a year in Brazil, man, go for it. Hell, you get a 2-year deal, $5 million a year. Punch those numbers in your calculator. It makes a happy face.
Yes, and especially if you can figure out a way to dance around the tax man and figure out a way to do that as best as possible. So when Monday's on a Tuesday next week, we might have an advancement, but there were sources that mentioned, Internacional and Josef. So keep an eye on that. Put a bookmark in that and roll it forward. I know a lot of you this morning, Pars and Emilio, have been discussing more about Miles. And Pars is wondering, with all the defensive signings, how long until a Miles announcement? And so, they're really, yeah. Well, and let's go down the conversation here. Emilio's wondering if Miles has a gripe with the team, just a hunch, and then it has obviously nothing to do with signing us, with us, mind you. I don't think that there's a gripe, because once again, if you go back to draft day and conversations that were had in national media that were then debunked by Carlos Bocanegra, about what Miles had been offered, and B, the emotional state between the two parties, that was mentioned in a very negative way on national television, and it was seriously debunked. And those are the words I'm going to choose to use. That it was seriously debunked by Carlos Bocanegra. Miles, it comes down to this. It comes down to this with Miles. Miles apparently wants Walker Zimmerman type money. And right now, yeah, and the idea is, and Walker Zimmerman with bonuses and such, I think his base was 1.8, and with bonuses and other things that they put in his Festivus stocking, I'm sorry about that. Festivus stocking, he makes north of $2 million a year. Atlanta United has had this discussion in the past with other individuals who wanted to get paid. And I mean, get paid. And so what you have and what you run the risk of, if this is, and like I said, we'll address this as a possibility. We'll go ahead and follow this road. If this is in fact what is, there in the Miles Robinson camp, what you look at is the idea of a cap league and a cap structure. And once again, we can get into this. And I know, Jarrett, you're going to be doing a series of Irish goodbyes this morning. So let me let you have word before you drop, before you come back, before you drop, before you come back. Right now, this is something that Atlanta United has been through before. And if this is the case, you have to look out for the collective. You have to have a very Borg-like idea until things are changed when it comes to salary structures. You have to think of the collective here, and you can't handicap yourself with someone who might, sit there and make things difficult for you when it comes to other dudes and bringing in other folks. So right now, that's what we're staring at. If Miles is looking for that Walker Zimmerman payday, there was also discussions that he might not be able to have that payday because of how the CBA is structured. Go for it.
Yeah, if he's looking for that, he's looking for that. And I don't begrudge anybody for betting on themselves. If it comes down to the fact that Miles is saying, I think I can get DP money. Mm-hmm. I don't begrudge him for betting on himself and saying, I'm going to go chase that because I think I can get that from somebody. And I'm not going to accept less than that. Now, that might change in like late January. Yeah, or like early February, if we get there and Miles hasn't signed, maybe we get to like third week of January. If he hasn't signed, maybe that changes.
Yeah.
But when you bet on yourself, you take risks, and that's okay for Miles, because I think a lot of it is Miles betting on himself, and he has set his own value at a certain threshold, and that's fine. It sucks that it probably won't be here in Atlanta. But I have no problem with him setting his own value where he thinks it is. And if you don't get that and you stay in the league and you're going to end up taking less money from somebody, because it sounds like with the rumors out of France, it sounds like Atlanta is gearing up to bring a replacement in and move forward. Because at the same time, Atlanta can't wait forever. You can't sit there on your hands through the January window and say, well, if he doesn't get an offer he likes, he can always come back to us. I mean, he can, but you can't sit on your hands and wait for that.
You can't,
knowing that he might find a setup he likes somewhere else, or he might find something in Europe that he really likes, and then you're sitting there, waiting for the last dance, and all of a sudden, you will look up and the whole damn dance is over. So you gotta jump if you're Atlanta, and if you're Miles, you bet on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means that you take a 2-year deal for slightly less per year, on kind of a prove it situation, because you don't get that big offer you're looking for, that's a risk you take, and then you go and try and prove it the next time, and you just do the dance all over again, man.
Yeah, this is the Judge Smales waiting for Danny Noonan to figure out whether or not he wants to sub for Al Czervik. This is, we're waiting. Except,
I mean, we're waiting at this point. Now, like I said, you've got more and more smoke coming out of the rumors out of France, where Atlanta has just decided to corner the damn market.
Steen Gregerson, yes. Bordeaux, yes.
Yes. Yeah, we're doesn't Atlanta shop in Argentina? No, we shop in second division France now. We tried first division France. We got Luis Araujo, and then we just decided, you know what, second division France is more our speed. We look, man. We decided the riches wasn't for us. We went down the escalator and we found the Uptons, and we're happy.
Yeah.
It's just what we're looking for.
Yes.
But yeah, man, with Miles, it sucks that he's very, very likely not going to be here. Is the way it's kind of playing out. I hope he gets exactly what he's looking for from somebody. But when you have 3 DP spots, I think because of the way you're constructed, you're not built like a Nashville, where that defensive spine and counter is your bread and butter. There you can get away with it. When you're built to rack up and to finish top 2 or 3 in the league in goals scored, and you want the ball constantly, I think you've got to use your DP spots elsewhere, and that might be eventually using it on a 10, using it on someone in the midfield to partner with William Bott. If you want to have some assurances other than Jay Fortune, and I think they believe in Jay Fortune strongly, and I believe in Jay Fortune strongly as well. He's an incredibly talented kid. I think his ceiling is very impressive. But if you want to shell out money in one of those spots, I think that fits better with how you're going to play. Miles, if he wants to get a DP deal, I think he can maybe get it from somewhere else. Maybe he goes to Europe. He is at that perfect age. This is his chance to make his way over to Europe. But we'll see, man.
Yeah. And so that's where we are with Miles right now. Is what does Miles want?
And no, to Amelia's point, does he take less from another MLS team instead of coming back to Atlanta? Honestly, I don't think he wants to, Emilio. But I guess my thing is, I guess in my brain, this is how I'm imagining it playing out. If he doesn't get the big deal, he might have to. And it's not the end of the world. He can take a 1-year deal with an option or 2-year deal, and maybe take TAM money, but take less from another team, and then try and ball out, and then move when he's 27, 28 years old. And try and get a bigger move, because the way the way MLS is structured, Atlanta can offer him the most money, and if they're already looking at making that next move and on, and yeah, I agree. The narratives down here is going to fire the hell off. But it sounds like Atlanta's ready to start the next step. And if that's the case, and if he doesn't get the big deal, he's going to end up taking less money from another place, and then the conversation's going to, you're going to get the narratives, you're going to get the conversation about it. But like I said earlier, if you're Atlanta, you can't sit there and wait on him forever, and you can't sit there and wait for, oh well, Miles didn't get what he wanted, so he'll come back. You got to be proactive. You got to get moving.
Yeah. Right now, according to our friends with the MLSPA, Miles is making 1.4. And that is base. Guaranteed compensation is another rookie minimum salary adjustment to that. So it's 1,437.5, $1,437,500. That's his total guaranteed compensation. And like I said, we talked about what Walker Zimmerman's base plus massive is. It's north of $2 million. So you're looking for what? 6. You're looking for basically a 40% increase in your salary to stay, with Atlanta United. But once again, you cannot look after one player and mess up the collective. And that's what you've got to look at here. And we've talked about it ad infinitum, and I'm sure that we will continue to do so. One, because of what Miami is doing, and now it looks like Leo Campana might be moving. After giving up the number 9 and going to number 8, it looks like Campana might be looking at offers elsewhere. What you have as Jarrett disappears for the first time today. What you have is a league that is looking at itself and it's like, all right, where are we? Where are we right now? We need to figure out how to go to MLS 3.0 or 3.5 or whatever version we're in. And how do we keep up with the Joneses? Do you widen your salary cap constraints, which you should? Do you add another DP, which you should, or make the allowance for salary cap loosening to where you can figure out what you want to do? And that's where we are right now. But until that happens, teams have to look out for themselves and they have to look at their philosophy. As Jarrett mentioned, this is a team that is hell-bent on scoring a lot of goals. I mean, number 3 in Major League Soccer last year in goals scored. Yes, I know about goals allowed as well. But what you want to do is you want to spend wisely and work your way into where you have your philosophy squared away and you continue to raid Ligue 2 and teams that are fighting for relegation, trying to stave off relegation. No update on Steen Gregerson. Although I will trust our faithful producers here in the Twitch pitch, keeping an eye on things and setting the notifications appropriately, with chasing after the folks like Steen Gregerson, etc. But until you have these loosening of the purse strings and teams can spend what they want or spend closer to what they want, because you will have folks who will spend and you will have folks who will not. You've got to play within the rules of engagement as they're currently structured. I don't know what the official change for the cap is right now. I know that we need to dig that up, and when we get closer to the season or closer to the January window, we can figure out what the official change is to the cap. I haven't heard of an official dollar figure or a percentage yet. When Darber had his press conference at MLS Cup, I did not see any information about any kind of loosening of purse strings and where things set with the cap. So that's what you're staring at. I mean, legitimately, what you're looking at when you brought in right now, you're in the window to try and sign Derek Williams, who was picked up in re-entry. So Derek Williams would be your experienced center back. Jonathan Mensah is still out there. Donovan Pines is still out there. They're still chasing after Steen Gregerson. So, and I know that we have championed bringing in a guy like Donovan Pines here. And you stare at, okay, Mensah could be a mentor. Donovan Pines could be a mentee. You have Noah Cobb and Efren Morales with Atlanta United 2, who could be learning from Williams, from a Mensah, and learning with a Donovan Pines. You've got Aiden Torres, who'll be at right back, who's been tremendous for the two. So you've got youth that is there learning that might be, another couple of, maybe 6 months to your season away or so. But you have the youth that's there that is willing to learn. You've got Derek Williams, and you're negotiating with him right now. And then you try to figure out where to go from here at the back. That you are having to do. Once again, Derek Williams was brought in via reentry. And so you have to do things this way right now. Let me see if I can figure out what Derek Williams' salary was last season really quickly to figure out where he would be under the cap. And he would also, let's see, salary. Once again, when you're monitor down, Derek Williams last year at DC United, $800,000. So Derek Williams last season made half of what Miles Robinson did. But what you can do, you bring in a Derek Williams, and then you bring in another individual. If you bring in Gregerson and you pay him high TAM or what have you, then you've gotten 2 for 1, basically, when it comes to Miles Robinson. But that's what you're staring at right now. Parzival with the question this morning, which refs do we think take liberties in big games on interpreting interpreting the new rules with the new rules in play. With Dickerson, yes. I don't know if can we mention his name? Can we mention Dickerson's name? Liberties and big games interpreting the new rules. So I would probably say that. And in all this discussion, obviously, morning Tom. Hopefully, the journey back from Charleston was okay. Which is why this is Tom. Tom is saying, which is why I'm saying I'm fine with Miles moving on. I think that he needs a complete reset. Well, and I mean that. I think that your center backs is where you're looking at to gain your assistance. You've got Muyumba helping out at defensive midfield. You got Jay Fortune, who is there to help out in the midfield. Pars would not necessarily be surprised. Pars says it could be me, but you're super blurry and faded out for a second. I am in Ozark, Alabama, and will be for this show, and I was yesterday. Internet speeds in Ozark, Alabama are not what they are at Office HD. So as Hutch said yesterday, it is suffering with the buffering. So I'm going to apologize ahead of time when it comes to buffering and blurry and return time and all these kinds of things. But thank you for putting up with us, as you always do. But so center backs and keeper. So keeper right now, keeper, you've got Brad, you've got Josh Cohen, you've got Quentin Westberg. And then you have some that you can develop. I think Nash Skoglund is now heading to South Carolina to learn under Tony Annan. You got John Berman, who is going to help out with the twos this year after coming in from Hunt City in MLS Next Pro. And so at center back, once again, you bring in Derek Williams. You sign Derek Williams. If that comes to pass, you bring in another one, whether it's a Mensah or a Pines or a Gregerson or whomever, to pair with Luis Abram. And then you get Noah Cobb and Efren Morales to learn from these other individuals that are there. So center back, I think, once again, we're managing the center back position right now. So I think that you're looking at there. And I know that Emilio's looking more at midfield once again. And it's you're looking at depth pieces. And in the interim, as I said, as things stand right now, you're looking at depth pieces, and you're looking at the third midfield slot. So that's what I know that you're staring at right now. So I think that's what we're addressing. And obviously, the front office is leaning in that direction and trying to figure out what to do. But once again, all of this is under a cap constraint. So it is having to go to Ligue 2 and go to Bordeaux and track down, Steen Gregerson and sit there and it's like, okay, his value at Transfermarkt, I think, was €2 million last time we checked. He's under contract for another year, so there might be a release clause. But something of a release, unless Bordeaux is worried about their finances and Atlanta United comes knocking on the door and says, we'd like to take him off your hands. Is that cool? And Bordeaux might be in a situation where they're like, yeah. Because once again, you look for teams who are distressed assets, who have distressed assets and are in trouble financially and need to kind of make ends meet. That's what you do in this business. You find talent in distressed situations and you bring them into your system. So that's what you're staring at here. But once again, circling back to Miles, Miles, he's not one to really sit there and play things out in the court of public opinion. Does Miles want to get paid? PSV was discussed. Europe was discussed. Do you get your payday? Is that what you want? The bottom line is we don't know because Miles is just a different cat. Miles, he'll talk in post game, but he's not going to go out on social media and volunteer things. Cincinnati volunteered more than anybody when they did the light show and the recruiting of Miles Robinson. Can Cincinnati afford Miles? Does Miles want to stay here in the United States and play in Major League Soccer? Or does he want to go abroad and get paid and experience life abroad as someone who plays football? That's the question only Miles can answer. And no one has been able to knock on Miles' door to get that answer. And we probably will not know the answer until Miles signs someplace. If it's PSV, if it's Europe, if it's Cincinnati, if it's somebody else in Major League Soccer. But remember, once again, there was talk that one of the clauses in the CBA hemmed in Miles financially to where he cannot make over a certain amount because of where he is in his contract status. So we keep an eye on Miles. But as Jared said, as things go into January, if he still remains unsigned, if he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do, well, we're waiting. I think I'll play. That's where we are with Miles, because Miles doesn't sit there and write missives on the IG or the Insta or the Gram or the 280 character app. That's just not his speed. So we probably won't know what's up with Miles until the end of this. And if a team in Major League Soccer wants to pay Miles and can pay him Walker Zimmerman money, what is that team sacrificing to bring in Miles Robinson? And I say sacrifice because, once again, we discuss, what is a team giving up to make that kind of a payday? In Nashville, it's a part of their DNA. That's what Gary Smith wants to do. Want to build down the spine. That's what we do here at Nashville. So Walker Zimmerman is integral. You're going to pay him that kind of dollar. Where Miles will be integral if he sticks in Major League Soccer, what gets sacrificed by that team that picks him up and puts him on their roster? Is it scoring? Is it depth? Is it both? We won't know because Miles doesn't trumpet things publicly. Morning forecast. So that's where we are with Miles. So Soccer for Good OG says Miles did an IG post, soul searching. And yes, forecast. Merry New Year, almost. We're in the in-betweens. And so, as the OG points out, 2 words on Instagram. Well, that's what, Tom, thank you. Not the worst North Londoner I've heard. That's, from hanging out with Gary. Gary's voice kind of sticks with you. 2 words. That's it, Miles. But like I said, he's a different cat. That's just how he's wired. We'll get maybe a message. It'll be nebulous. Multiple meanings. But I don't think we're going to know what Miles wants until Miles tells us. And I mean that in the finality sense, not just as an update like soul searching, as the OG has found out on the gram. So we'll see. But once again, right now, the league is still in a place where you have to sacrifice something to get something. Where Inter Miami's concerned, they're sacrificing defense. They are sacrificing defense, especially if Marcus Rojo comes in. 30-pluser on the other side. Yeah, Inter Miami, look, I'm going to say this right now. Inter Miami, take the over. Take the over. All season long, take the over. Don't care. And especially on games in the midweek. We talked about that as well. But yeah, right now, with Messi and friends bringing in all the friends and trying to figure out how that's going to fit under the cap. NIL deals waiting off in the wings. Oh, Beckham will make it happen. Moss brothers are like, bro, what do you want to do? Beckham's like, well, I want to bring in my friends. And that'll happen. They'll find ways to make it happen. It's probably going to be NIL deals that you will have across the board with these folks. Pars, how many games do we really think the 30-plus players, meaning age, are going to play? One, with one, congestion, and two, the real travel that exists in MLS compared to the rest of the world. I mean, what happened late in the year with Messi and friends? Legit. Seriously, you ended up with games where you had Alba and Busquets playing most of the minutes to try to have some kind of a hammer defensively. Now, like I said, it's going to be the 30-plussers. And I think here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what I think is going to happen with Messi and friends. I think they're going to try to front load their wins as much as possible. They're going to go, you know what, to the wall out of the blocks. Because when you're trying to get into and this is my reference point, looking at the lower divisions in other countries, how do you gain promotion? You start out hot early and you try to hold on. And I think that's what I think that's what we're going to see out of Messi and friends this year. They're going to try to start out hot. You're going to see Messi, Suarez, Alba, Busquets, Marcus Rojo, whomever. That starting lineup is going to be there. Yeah, there's some things I can say, Tom, and some I can't. I'll let you guys say them in the Twitch pitch. But I think what you're going to see is the star-spangled, all-star, oh, my God, Messi and friends starting 11 early in the season as much as possible. They're going to try to rack up as many points as they can and then try to hang on through the midweeks and try to make sure that they're going to be at the top or near the top of the Eastern Conference. I think that's what they're going to do. So I think early in the year, you're going to see the star-spangled Messi and friends starting 11. As we get later in the year, not so much. Of course, it could depend on positioning and where things are and if they really need to get a point in the midweek, those kinds of things. I think that's what you're going to see from Messi and friends. I think they're going to drive Tata crazy. I mean, Tata better have a case of Malbec on hand at DRVP&K after every match because he's going to need it. It literally, I'm going to see so many 4-3-5-4s. I mean, legitimately, that's what I think is going to happen. And Pars, we probably should print a T-shirt. Pars, big shout out to the boss, by the way. Percival's wife is listening and just said how much she loves fighting through the laughter that you refer to them as Messi and friends. It's what it is. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking any kind of falsehood here. I don't think I am. It's Messi and friends. It's like, I want to get all my buddies together for one last ride. How many of us can say that? In our work, how many of us can sit here and say, you know what? This is my last gig. I want to work with my friends, and I want to have as much fun as possible. When you're Lionel Messi, you can do that. And so this is Messi and Friends FC. There is no substitute. It is Messi and Friends FC. But that's literally, when you're Lionel Messi, you can call that shot. What is David Beckham going to, is Beckham going to tell you no? Is the league going to tell you no? Are the Moss brothers going to tell you no? No. You want to work with your buddies. I mean, seriously, how many of us have gotten the chance to work with our friends as a last gig? I think that answer to us is very few. And when you've got that chance, you're going to jump on it. So Lionel Messi, with his NIL deal at Major League Soccer, is going to bring in all of his buddies. They're going to figure out how to do it by the let me get this, letter of the law. And yes, I did just use air quotes for those of you who are watching on the YouTube, on the Twitch, and on the 280 character app. Yes, I did just use air quotes. The letter of the law. They will find ways to make it work. Oh, sorry. I meant Gregory is going to be looking for a new home, not Campana. Campana wants to stay. Gregory's the one who looks like he might be leaving because he was going to be bought down, and he was going to be bought down into a TAM, so that would free up the DP spot. But look, it's Messi and friends. That's what it is. Bottom line. And I think that they are going to go, yes, Tom, thank you for typing the word in the Twitch pitch. They're going to go balls to the wall early. There, I said it. They're going to try to max out as many points as possible. We're going to be looking at, I'll say this right now, this will be one of my stone cold lock predictions of 2024, and we're not even in 2024, and we're saving all of that stuff until Monday on a Tuesday next week. So get your predictions for 24 ready for next Tuesday. This is my first stone cold lock prediction for 2024. That Messi and friends are going to come out of the gate just on fire. Like I said, you're going to see the star-spangled starting 11 of Messi and friends. They're going to try to rack up as many points as possible out of the blocks. And we're going to sit there, except here, because we're mentioning it here. We're going to, in the collective sense, short of us here, everyone is going to look at that point total early on after that international tour of El Salvador and Saudi Arabia and Hong Kong and Japan, and they're going to come in and watch them be completely tired and fall on their face, but they're going to come out of the blocks. They're going to have a massive amount of points because of the star-spangled starting 11 of Messi and friends. And everyone is going to sit there and go, oh, look at Miami. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. They're going to probably come out with a big win streak. How does the league handle Messi and friends with Luis Suarez and Marcus Rojo and Alba and Busquets and Messi and all the scoring? And then they're going to come back to the pack because they have to manage minutes. Guarantee you. Of course, my predictions are usually 180 degrees from the actual. But, like I said, just look at them from the globe trotting and fall flat on their face. But what I think is going to happen, out of the blocks, they're going to come out with like an ish load of points. And they're going to be at the top of the East. And there's going to be some space. And everybody's going to sit there with their national narratives and go, are they running away with it in 2024? Messi and friends running away with Major League Soccer. What are they going to do? What's the rest of the league going to do to react? No. I think they start out hot. And then I think they come back to the pack. Age, schedule compression, multiple competitions. Because remember, they're also in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, and they have to balance that out too. So, front-loaded excitement with Messi and friends. Front-loaded excitement. And then when the season gets into the dog days in June and July, and we're around the mid-season classic that's going to star most of Messi and friends and the Star-Spangled starting 11. Then they're going to come back to the pack a little bit because they got to manage things, especially from the teams that are not in the Hemispheric Extravaganza. That all they have to focus on is making sure that they're starting 11 and that they're healthy. That's like I said, I could be 180% wrong or 180 degrees wrong or both. But I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to have a lot of national folks sit there and go, oh, they're running away with it. Well, yeah, when you're at the beginning of a season and you've got a bunch of star-spangled starting 11s and you're Messi and friends, and with all of that talent, you better be. But they're going to come back to the pack. That's what I think is going to go down. So mark the tape. I'm glad I got this in before the end of 2023. or the beginning of training camp or the tour to El Salvador. But I think that's what's going to happen. So keep an eye on it. That's what I think is going to go down. Wow, we haven't even talked about anything that happened in the Prem yesterday. So Joseph Miles and Inter Miami. I get it. Joseph Miles and Messi and Friends. Why does the old Super Friends Open stick in my brain now? Remember Saturday morning cartoons with Messi and Friends? Wow, Freudian slip. With the Super Friends, literally, that's what's going through my head right now. Messi, Alba, Busquets, Sergio with the Marcus Rojo, Luis Suarez, as Superman, Aquaman, Batman, and Robin, those kinds of things. I think somebody, if Robert Smigel was smart, or if the sports version of Bob Smigel were smart, he would do a TV fun house with Messi and Friends as the Super Friends and just do that mashup. Just get that done right now. So that's my thought anyway. Shows you how much I know. In hour 2, got a bunch of stuff. Like I said, we barely touched on. We talked about Manchester United yesterday. We do have more details. We'll get into that in hour number 2. And stuff about ball boys and stupidity down here and pyramid rescue packages and what happened yesterday and getting you ready for what's going on today. But I want you to put your thinking caps on over the next couple days. I want to know what your stories of the year are. When I mention the word soccer in 2023, I want to know what's on your mind. So today, tomorrow, Friday, we'll get 2023, all of our 2023 thoughts. We'll have that for the next couple days. Nico Moreno joining us on Thursday, traditionally 10:30 Eastern. Got a couple of 1v1s that we are lining up, and we will get to hear from, hopefully, we're lining up some folks up at UConn. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There's your hint. There's your hint. And also some stuff in lower divisions and the NPSL. So we should have some cool stuff for 1v1s to get us into 2023 to 2024. And like I said, Thursday, Friday, once again, we'll be talking about all the other stuff as we get you ready for the remainder of this year and get you ready for New Year's Day, which we will not be on. So Tuesday, and we'll do another Soccer Over There marathon on Monday. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the Soccer Over There marathons that we put up on holidays. But when we come back on Tuesday, it'll be Monday on a Tuesday, and hopefully Drew can join us for Prem and Proper Review, and we'll get into all of that kind of stuff and get you ready for 24. 24, we'll get your predictions ready. So when we do Monday on a Tuesday next week and pushing forward next week, we'll talk about 2024. We'll look in the shiny crystal ball, and we'll talk about all the kind of stuff that's on your brain for 2024. But we'll save that for Tuesday. Rest of the week, we'll get 2023 out of the way. Whatever's on your mind from 2023, you can always drop it in the Twitch pitch, and we'll talk about it, and we'll go from there. Michael Head has his 2023 thoughts, and I'll go back into the timeline and look at what you guys were talking about earlier, and we will redress. Amazing but true. A team can spend over $1 billion in transfers, look like ish, and be mid-table. Unbelievable but true. There you go. Nothing like Chelsea, eh? All right, so going back, I'm going to go back into the timeline and see if there was anything that I missed. Parr says, once again, it's been a while since I checked. Atlanta loses to the team that goes on to win MLS Cup 100% of the time when they make the playoffs. And, I think that still is the case. That is absolutely the case. And so we will continue to discuss all these kinds of things as we go going forward. And starting hour number 2, Dylan, I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I am in southeastern Alabama. So if there is any kind of lag or how should we phrase this? Internet moodiness, It is because of my location. I am not in Office HD, and I will be back there tomorrow. I just figured I would let you know off the top.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they don't have the internet. Is just getting there to Alabama. Is that the case? Like,
oh, he's hitting me hard out of the blocks this morning.
it's a new tangled thing there.
It is a lot slower. I will tell you that right now. It is the speeds are far slower than they are in Office HD. So, like I said, if there's buffering, if I'm a little slow in my response time, it's because I'm here and you are there. How was Festivus, sir? Before we move into soccer.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very good. It's always great to spend time with family, not working. Exchanging gifts, that whole fun stuff. So it was good.
So did you get a pony? Did you get a pony?
I I did not, although my daughter did get a My Little Pony. So we
wow.
there was a pony. Yeah. What's old
Okay.
is kind of new again as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What I wanted to do with you this morning is I wanted to continue our Newcastle discussions as we seem to, especially here during festive fixtures. But I also wanted to kind of go over 2023 in soccer with you and be a little, I guess, philosophical about it, because I know that with your Newcastle, you can have an all injured starting 11 and an all healthy starting 11, and I'll say healthy in quotation marks. Once again, you're having to go through festive fixtures. So from a Newcastleian point of view, after apparently forgetting that Chris Wood was actually out on the pitch for Nottingham Forest, what takeaways do you have from your Newcastle bunch so far as we're now here in festive fixtures getting ready for 24?
Well, John, it is the festive season is about giving, and that's the mood that the Newcastle defense was in as well, right? We're going to give opportunities to former players and give away fans the joy during this holiday season. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I would always be so jacked up for the Boxing Day fixtures, and for some reason, it always felt like Newcastle was put up against a team that they were punching above their weight, right? It was always like Newcastle, Liverpool, Newcastle, Manchester United, and like, just because of the day, you get excited. Oh, a day full of matches, this is great. And then it's like 4-1, you lose. You're like, what? And I'm sure I'm wrong, but I do not remember like a positive result on a Boxing Day. Like, they're just terrible. It's terrible fixture days for Newcastle. So just the form that we're in now, it's listen, the January transfer window couldn't come quicker. I had told you if Newcastle didn't advance in the Champions League, I did not want to be in Europa League. Like, so the fact they finished 4th in that group, obviously I'm gutted they didn't advance, but I did not want anything to do with that Europa League. Just that we were already thin to begin with, and going to Sparta Moscow on a Tuesday and then having to play Arsenal on a Saturday wasn't exactly going to better the mood. So yeah, listen, it's Eddie Howe will not make excuses, but for sure it's clear that this team is just running on empty right now and on fumes. And guess what? We have Liverpool on New Year's Day. So awesome,
man. Oh wow!
But you know what, John? Like you said, for the philosophical year view, right? These are champagne problems to have, right? Like wanting to be in the top
Absolutely.
4, being just outside of it, playing Champions League football, the match against PSG at home. These are amazing memories, and it's a new ownership. that's come in and just breathed life into a club that, you know, and I've told you, you know, when I went to Philadelphia to see them play Villa, I think, or Brighton, I'm not sure. I think Brighton was at Red Bull, but when I saw them in person, I was like for sure thinking I'd be like the only Newcastle fan there. And there were a lot. There's a lot of us, and we haven't had a lot to cheer about. So, you know, the fact that early in 2023 we played in a cup final, right? Didn't win it, but we made the cup final. We finished top 4. We made the Champions League. Like, a lot of positives for Newcastle. So, despite another Boxing Day defeat, the bigger picture is a positive one for sure.
Well, and fellow Newcastle fan Alex Basine, I think he has actually pinned this down correctly. He goes, Yule log is a symbol for the season. Logs are made of wood. It's Christmas. Santa is a well-known hat wearer. So obviously, Chris Wood hat trick, easy money. The transitive properties that Alex has relayed here to lay it all out for us, I think that it is true thought by Alex this morning.
And perhaps he's won a shilling or two over that off of that rationale. I don't know.
Yes,
maybe a couple juice boxes.
Right there with you. I see. We'll get into juice boxes a little later. When it comes to soccer in 2023, since we're on this side of the calendar, so next week you have to save your way too early predictions for 2024, since the calendar has not turned. When I mention soccer in 2023, what will you carry with you, whether it's from a reporting standpoint, a story standpoint, anything like that, regardless of level or division or location on the planet? What will you carry with you from 2023 when it comes to the sport of soccer?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, John, because for OSDB, I've put out a top 10 moments with an American lens on it. So that'll come out on Monday. You know, but you know, we could certainly some of what we would talk about is going to be in that story, but I think it's got to start with Messi coming to America, right? Like, that's a massive landscape changing moment. I'm old enough to be around and covering the league when Beckham came here, and I don't know if you had a chance to partake in it, but if not, highly recommend the Netflix series. That was good. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that felt like a different level, like a video game. You know, now you're on level 2 or level 3, and this one brings it up even more because, listen, David Beckham was a very good player, and obviously he was a much bigger brand than he was a player, or I should say a much better brand than he was a player, and he was a very good player. Messi, obviously, you know, we've talked about this ad nauseum. You know, he's the best there is, and arguably the best there ever was. So to have him here and to do what he's done early on, and to see what it's meant to this league that, you know, listen, we cover, we love. It's our domestic league. I think it's huge. So that was, for me, that was like the biggest moment. But even again, from an American landscape, a few other things pop into mind, like the U.S. women, right? Like, we were all excited to see them go and perhaps make history in New Zealand and Australia. They were the #1 team. They had a swagger, but maybe too much of a swagger, right? And got knocked down a few pegs. And it was their earliest defeat ever. And obviously that created change. And then Emma Hayes comes in, someone who it feels like a million years ago, I knew as the Long Island Lady Riders coach, like here on Long Island, right? And cool also to see her become the highest paid women's coach, and to see that level with Berhalter, and then Berhalter coming back. That's another story. Like, so certainly big ones from that perspective. Those are 3 or 4 of the 10 that I've listed on this kind of American soccer year in review story that'll be on osdbsports.com on Monday.
Excellent teasing. I like the cross promotion. So then let me ask you this. How difficult was it for you to get down to 10? What was on the cutting room floor that you thought might make it but didn't?
Good question. What didn't? I mean, I think like Denny Boanga's season didn't make it. Like his and it's remarkable when you consider, like, it's not just winning the Golden Boot, which just accounts for regular season, but then you throw in what he did in the Champions League and what he did, in Leagues Cup, and like all the competitions and all the goals that he scored. That that didn't make it. Columbus winning it did. I probably could have taken a deeper dive at Nancy. I could have even, this didn't make the top 10, although I did just write about kind of the coaching carousel. We've never seen more turnover in Major League Soccer among head coaches, and perhaps that speaks to, is that a little bit of a Messi effect? A bit of a, we've got to win now, and there's pressure to win, where maybe in years past there wasn't as much pressure. And we've seen it not just among the bigger spending clubs, right? But we've seen it throughout the league. So I think that is perhaps another one of those bigger stories that didn't quite make the top 10 list.
So is that good or bad that we had the coaching turnover that we did? If it is a result of panic, is it good panic, or is panic always a bad thing? So when I ask that question, I admit it's probably loaded to one direction, but is all of the coaching changes that a good thing or a bad thing in one season?
Yeah, so I hear you with the panic. I generally don't subscribe to panic being a good thing, but I think pressure is a good thing, right? Like, you need to have pressure as a head coach, as a sporting director, general manager in your job, right? Like, if there's not pressure on you, then there's really not a lot of accountability, right? So in that sense, I like it. Definitely don't want to open this this can of worms, but
oh, come on.
The ultimate pressure comes from potentially getting relegated, right? And obviously we don't have that yet in MLS. So I think that's the pressure we see throughout the world, right? Like in England and Spain and Italy, like the teams that, like, around this time of year that are in a relegation battle, they're quickly trying to change course and finding a new manager to do so. Obviously, that's not the case in the U.S. You can argue about too many teams in the playoffs. There's still 29 teams in the league, so there's a lot of teams that do not make the playoffs. And if that's like your ultimate barometer, then there is pressure for those coaches who, sit around that playoff line, right? So I don't believe like in the quick hook kind of panic decisions, but it is good to have pressure, I think, in this league.
Was there one dismissal in Major League Soccer this past season that was more surprising over the others? It could be because of name, it could be because of team, it could be because of timing. when it happened, who it happened to. Was there one, or was there a series of a couple that kind of sat there and you went like, whoa, okay, did not expect that?
I think the first one that comes off the top of my head is maybe Lasada, because I don't think they crashed and burned. But then when you consider the ownership, perhaps not a surprise. So that's one that sticks out. I think Adrian Heath at the time it happened was a little bit curious because they were very much still in a playoff picture with a couple games left. So that was a little bit puzzling. I think even, I don't know. I mean, they were coming off a bad loss. Gio Savarese was a little bit weird when that did happen. Yeah. But again, it looked like Portland was just kind of looking for like a new coach bump. Not surprised at Miami, especially because that was all part of seemingly the plan, right? Like Red Bull, not surprised at the initial one, and not surprised necessarily that Lesane wasn't kept around because they were always looking for that European manager, the German manager, I guess. So I think those are a few off the top of my head that that were the most surprising in the timing of it.
What in the wide world of sports is going on in Minnesota?
Apparently nothing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, all right, we're gonna stick with the interim, and our sporting director is gonna come at the turn of the calendar, and yeah, we're cool with it. I just you mentioned scratching your head over the timing of the Adrian Heath dismissal. With only a handful of matches left in the season, you're sitting there going, okay, maybe we should just give him a shot and he finishes out and whatever happens, happens. But then now you're sticking with the interim. Your sporting director, yeah, we're cool with him just kind of showing up a little later. And, you know, that's fine. It's just I'm perpetually scratching my head over what's going on in Minnesota. And this is just the new part of all of this.
No, you're 100% right. Like, you know, it's funny, like when the U.S., and I guess that could have been part of the 10, like the new guy in charge for U.S. soccer as well, right? Like all of U.S. soccer and the changes that he could bring about. But like even there, he wasn't here and he was able to have conversation. Like just because you're in England, like Zoom still works. Like you could still talk to coaches. Right? At least I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, confusing at sort of the punt that they're making right to the start of the season, right? Like, yeah, we're good.
When you're not, that's the thing that gets me. It's like, no, bro, you're not okay. You're not good. You brought in Teemu Pukki and that worked to a certain extent. But it's like, no, everything is not okay. Literally, it's almost like as your fellow Newcastle fan Alex Basine posted this morning about not wanting to talk about Newcastle. You just post the everything is fine .gif where you're sipping the coffee and the room around you's on fire.
Yeah,
I don't.
Or like that, or like I referenced before, like the Frank Drebin, right? Like with the nothing to see here.
Everything is fine. And I mean. So wow. Oh, see, now you're having me think about who in the Minnesota hierarchy would be Frank Drebin in this case. Oh, see, now I'm going to have that thought in my head for an entire week of trying to figure out who in the Minnesota United front office is Frank Drebin. Police squad, absolutely underrated. When we look at like Los Angeles, and you can say both LAFC and LAG. I mean, I still have concerns if I'm an LAG fan with Greg Vanney, and you now no longer have Chicharito, but you're chasing after dudes with 8-figure transfer fees, and this is right. This is all a part of their DNA. I mean, I get that. but you've got problems in the larger markets in Major League Soccer. You look at Los Angeles, and LAG was the big brother, and then LAFC has just rocketed past them. Then in New York City, it's Red Bulls, where you bring in an individual in Sandro Schwartz, whose most success was at one of the Moscow franchises. I think it was Dinamo or Spartak? I get them confused.
Neither team you want to play if you're Newcastle on a Tuesday.
True. That's absolutely true. And then NYCFC was kind of, messing around, and they did not make the season 3. And Chicago, now this is another thing. With Chicago, you stick with Frank Klopas, and you seem to be just as cool with setting money on fire or just like emptying out your wallet. I literally have this vision of the front office, or Joe Mansueto in charge of all of the AM. I just have this vision of him like in this conference room with the glass table and all of the AM just dumped on it. And Mansueto's going, okay, so we'll send this to this team and this to this team. And it's like, what are you doing? Chicago, to me, it's like you had questions in the offseason, and now you have questions upon questions in the offseason.
And how about Nashville too, right? Like, we don't need international players. We're good.
Oh, we're fine. Sam Surridge was great. We're very, very happy with Sam Surridge. We're very, very pleased with what he's been able to do so far for us up front, and we're looking forward to him getting more adjusted to Major League Soccer. Dylan, that's how it works.
Always a big fan of the Gary Smith whenever I can get it.
Yes, exactly. So, what about, okay, so let me ask you this. Still about 23 in Major League Soccer. Overachiever, underachiever. Who would fit in those categories for you?
This past year, overachiever.
Mm-hmm. Did one exist?
Yeah, there definitely. It's got to be still. Even though the playoff loss sort of, takes a little bit of the shine off, it has to be St. Louis, right? Like, because everyone kind of figured they'd be, because they weren't building in the way that others built. It had to be them, because everyone kind of thought they'd be in last place. So to finish first in the West, a historic expansion season, and you know what? That could have also been part of the 10. It didn't make the cut either, but I think they were certainly overachievers. They were probably more underachievers in MLS than there were overachievers. I mean, you could argue that Cincinnati wasn't. I don't know. Did they overachieve? I mean, they had never had that level of success. They had just come off making the playoffs. So I don't think, did a lot of people have them as Shield winners, coming in? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I don't think they did. No.
Or did they just reach their, I feel like when you say a team overachieved, it's almost like, well, you don't expect that again, sort of the next season. And I do expect them to be in the mix. St. Louis is one of the more interesting, I think, stories looking ahead. Just like, so what does year 2 look like for them, right? Like, are they going to have that Austin experience where, they fly out of the gate, they look incredible, and they kind of regress to the mean, and now who are they? Are they this middling team with a really fancy stadium, or are they, did they just struggle, and now, with the new sporting director, they'll turn things around. So, sorry. So back to your question, underachieved. Yeah, listen, and NYCFC underachieved, certainly, right? From this neck of the woods, that's for sure. You expected more from them. I almost wanted to say Portland, but I just felt like they were generally old, but you always expect them to be in the mix. So
Mhm.
certainly that you would say that they underachieved. Um, did Miami overachieve is a question. Like, but then again, they didn't. Yeah, that's a tough one, I guess, right? Like, I'm just kind of walking through it in my head and verbalizing what's in my head. But like, I thought of that because like they were bad, and then Messi came
Yes.
and they won League's Cup, but then Messi got hurt and they don't make the playoffs. So I guess they were about where they were, but huge expectations for them obviously coming up in the new year. So just sort of off the top, and yeah, I mean Minnesota underachieved. I think you look at a lot of the teams that are below the playoff line. I think it's fair to say that they underachieved, but based on recent history and teams that have done well, I would put NYCFC right at the top. And it's weird too because we all knew the issue with the number 9, and that's the same issue they went into the season with, which was a little bit confusing, right? Like they seemed to have an idea that an experiment would work that didn't work.
So I think it's safe to say that Cincinnati and Miami achieved.
Yeah,
They
I
just
think that's fair.
achieved.
I think that's fair. I don't think Columbus, like even though Columbus won, were a lot of people surprised. I don't think a lot of people were surprised by that, right? Like certainly not LAFC making the final. An interesting debate could be whether they underachieved. Like they reach 3 finals and they go 0 for 3.
Yeah. And I think that there is value there in that discussion. What are you up to on New Year's? Are you quiet, dodging fireworks, or what?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, just a quiet night in the household. My daughter claims she's going to try to make it to ball drop. I think she got to about 10 last year, so we'll see if she makes it to midnight. But no, just quiet night here. How about for you?
It should be the same, and trying to make sure that a puppo does not freak out with all the fireworks. So we're going to keeping an eye on
the worst.
Keeping an eye on the rowdy man and making sure that he's okay with teenagers lighting off fireworks starting at sundown and working their way till about 2 a.m. So it's a fun time in the subdivision on New Year's Eve. Dylan, thank you for a fantastic 2023. Thank you for dropping in and being a part of the SDH family again for another year. And once again, we tip our hat to you, sir, for putting up with all of my silliness and all of the silliness here at SDH on a weekly basis. Be safe, be well, my friend. We will catch up with you on the flip side in 24.
Yeah, same here, John. Thanks, buddy.
All right, that's Dylan Butler. And Dylan, as always, puts up with all of my crap. And so I had to, and to everybody, I'll say this again on Friday, but since Dylan visited us here on Wednesday, thanks to all of our golden ticket holders. Thanks to all the guests. Thanks to all of you on the Twitch pitch. Thanks to all of you that are a part of this wacky family here at Soccer's Morning Show. And like I said, we're season 8 coming up in early 2024. So season 8 of Soccer's Morning Show coming up in short order. But thanks to Dylan for putting up with all of my weird stuff. Follow him on the Twitters at Dylan_Butler. Go to OSDB Sports, read all of his stuff, and Varsity Media on YouTube for all the high school things. All of that is a part of Dylan's milieu when he comes here on Wednesdays at 10 when he can to discuss things going on in Major League Soccer. And it's great to have him as a part of the SDH family. Yes, OG, Atlanta underachieved. Remember, we're spoiled. Yes. Something that came across on the wires, and I'm not necessarily going to give it any kind of a siren because it's just a discussion, but it appears that from Teise's Damian Viagra and our friends at Ataque Futbolero, who have 371,000 followers on the 280 character app. It looks like Santi Sosa is being discussed to head to Racing in 2024. So that is being discussed and talked about and possibly being a possibility. So, Santi, when he was healthy, and that, like I've said, I feel like that you kind of have to phrase everything starting that way. When Santi Sosa was healthy, he was an integral part of the midfield. Unfortunately, he just was not healthy enough, and it took him. It would take him a while to get back to full song, and then there would be others who were healthy, who had passed him by, and then you have transactions and the twos and all of that. But you wish, if this is in fact the case for Santi Sosa with a relationship with Racing, then more power to him. He's a great young man, and I want the best for Santi Sosa. So as we say, Ataque Futbolero, 371,000 followers on the 280 character app, and they are referencing a report from a periodista at TIC, a reporter at TIC, and Santi Sosa rumored to Racing. And so this is where, once again, here late December, early January, once again, we get into the January window, and you're seeing names kind of push their way in, and you figure out, okay, here's the deal. And you wonder what's going on. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on. So that's the latest the rumor with Santi Sosa that Tom was referencing, and so we'll keep an eye on that. So just once again, keep an eye on the Twitters, the 280 character app, and we will continue to remind you: check your sources, check your sources, check your sources. Please check your sources. Check your numbers, check your sources. And that is what this time of year is all about. And you make sure that you're looking at, that you're looking at folks, and you keep an eye on them, and you're going, okay, dude's got only 1,800 followers. Maybe I shouldn't necessarily sit there and keep an eye on that. You file it away, but you don't sit there and trumpet it. It's like, okay, dude says this. Does dude with, 1,800 followers, does he have a history of developing and breaking news? If he does, hang on to it a little more. And, keep it in your hip pocket. Don't necessarily sit there and talk about it, but keep it in your hip pocket. But Ataque Futbolero in Argentina, referencing a report from TIC. So keep an eye on Santi Sosa possibly moving to Racing in 2024. So we'll keep an eye on that as a part of all the moves that we get as soon as the calendar turns, and we turn into the 2024 year, when we have Monday on a Tuesday starting next week. We mentioned what's going on in that particular rumor, so we'll go ahead and chase all the other gossip, rumor, and innuendo while we're discussing things. Half hour to go here, and we'll discuss everything with Manchester United. We will discuss what's going on with Manchester United and all the stuff that we forgot to talk about yesterday. So Rangers and Ross County, by the way, off because of travel concerns. The pitch is fine, but at Ibrox, but the travel is not. So for those of you that were looking at Rangers and Ross County today, it ain't happening. All right. Courtesy of our friends at the BBC, this is their clearinghouse of all the talking points. Manchester City close to signing Argentine midfielder Claudio Echeverri from River Plate in a deal likely to result in them loaning the 17-year-old back to his current club until the end of the Premier League season. Also, Arsenal, best positioned to sign 22-year-old Sporting Lisbon defender Gonçalo Inácio in January with the Portugal international, who has a 60 million euro release clause. Also interesting, Liverpool. Sporting Lisbon striker Victor Gyökeres has been linked with Arsenal and Chelsea in January, but the 25-year-old Swedish international, formerly with Coventry City, says he wants to stay with the Portuguese club for the rest of the year. Spurs, who now have another injury issue, Christian Romero out 4 to 5 weeks. ready to pay £25 million to prize 18-year-old Belgian midfielder Arthur Vermeeren from Royal Antwerp, with the deal including a large upfront fee and an agreement to loan the player back to the Pro League champs for the remainder of the season. That comes from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Former England and Manchester United midfielder Jesse Lingard has been offered a free agent deal to Ligue 1 side Lille. However, Brexit could ruin his chances of a move, as French clubs are limited to signing 4 players from non-EU states or countries. Speaking of which, the league that we neither promote nor discuss by name is thinking about loosening their restrictions on internationals in time for if not this window coming up, for the summer window at the end of their season, so they can bring in more players to Saudi Arabia, because they really want to bring in Mo Salah and they want to really bring in a lot of other players. So they're thinking of loosening the restrictions on internationals, because I think it currently is 4, and they're thinking of expanding that number. So keep an eye on that, about the league in Saudi Arabia that we neither discuss in depth or promote them on TV by name. Manchester United considering a move for £26 million rated striker Joshua Zirkzee. 7 goals in 17 matches this year for Bologna. Inter Milan keen to bring in Iran international Mehdi Taremi from Porto in January, but could look at Manchester United French forward Anthony Martial or Chelsea's Armando Broja as alternative, and that's from our friends at Gazzetta dello Sport. Atletico Madrid have knocked back an approach by Juve for Argentina midfielder Rodrigo de Paul. PSG have agreed a deal worth €20 million or £17.33 million for Corinthians' 18-year-old Brazilian midfielder Gabriel Moscardo. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Former France defender Raphael Varane open to leaving Manchester United to return to Lens, where he started his career. But Bayern Munich are also keen on making a move for Varane, while another of his former clubs, Real Madrid, also remain in the race. Brazil and former Atletico Paranaense forward Vitor Roque has flown to Spain to begin his contract at Barcelona. He signed a 7-year deal when he was 17 back in July. So that is your gossip, rumor, and innuendo, the early rounds, as we play our way through here. Let me go back and look at the comments. Let me see if there was anything else that I missed from our earlier discussions this morning, specifically about because we had a long discussion about Miles Robinson, had a long discussion about Joseph Martinez. I think Max Tam did go up, Emilio. I just don't know how much off the top of my head. So we'll see. We'll see what's going on with all of that. So 1.65 looks like is the new number before you get into DP space. Yeah, Dickerson. Dickerson, and there are a couple of others too that drove folks crazy this past year. Tom says Kit Talk is seeing that Messi and Friends' third jersey will be Dolphins inspired. That would be interesting. The orange and the aqua. That people will buy the ever-loving-ish out of it. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, 4-card Sosa possibly to Rossing. Atake Futbolero has discussed that. They referenced a report from one of TIC's reporters. So, we'll keep an eye on that. But once again, you wish the best for somebody like Asante Sosa, and you want him to be 100%. You want him to be healthy 100% of the time. You want him to get good. You want him to get reps, because when he was solid, he was solid. But no, great guy, and you want the best for somebody like Santi Sosa. And if it is Rossing, then it is Rossing. And so we'll keep an eye on that as a part of everything. Yesterday in the Premier League, I know we were kind of talking about Boxing Day and what went down. Got to talk about Nottingham Forest and Newcastle because Maddie and Drew Dickinson were there, and we got to talk about it with Dylan Butler this morning. And the early game had the early match had a little bit batch of crazy with Nottingham Forest and Chris Wood getting a hat trick, and Alex deftly went through all of the machinations and the transitive property to how Chris Wood was able to get the hat trick yesterday for Nottingham Forest. First one was at 45+1, and then he had two more within about an 8-minute period, and got through all of that. Big win for Nottingham Forest. And who is this Nuno Espirito Santo? I am not familiar with this particular style of play that he brought forward. Also yesterday, Bournemouth shuts out Fulham by the final of 3-0, and it looks like Bernd Leno got into a bit of a row with one of the ball boys. But the thing is, and if you look at the video of Bernd Leno and the ball boy, I think it was 2-0 at the time. I'm going to get the particulars here in just a little bit, but it was Bournemouth had a lead, and late ball boys being ball boys, they're doing what they're doing. They're doing their job. They're kind of slowing things down a little bit. And Bernd Leno, literally sides trailing, and he made contact with the ball boy. And I think he's going to avoid an FA charge because immediately after the match, he went up and apologized, and they, hugged it out and did their thing. Bernd Leno, the ball boy at the Vitality, he just kind of, hey, here you go. He's kind of being cool about it. And then Leno literally stiff arms the kid and tries to push him back away after literally the ball boy just kind of hands him the ball and just kind of like, yeah, here you go. Leno takes him and literally at arm's length, he pushes him back. And so, it appeared to shove. Here's the wording from Tom Prentke of the Telegraph. Appeared to shove a ball boy. Home striker Dominic Solanke immediately confronted Leno, and angry responses from the supporters in the goal behind him. He was booed for the rest of the match. As a result, referee Tim Robinson told stadium staff to ask all of the ball boys to retreat from their pitch side positions. Marco Silva said Leno had been frustrated as he felt the ball boys were deliberately slowing the play down, but added he does not expect the 31-year-old to receive any further punishment, and I think that was made clear this morning. It was madness, Niall. It was absolute madness. But like we talked about yesterday, let me finish the thought here on Leno. So I didn't see him pushing the ball boy. I saw him touch the ball boy, not push him, and they're not the same things. I spoke with Bernd about it. It's clear that he went to speak to the boy after that moment as the top professional that he is. We wanted to play quick. I don't know who gave instructions for them to hold always the ball to delay the beginning of the game again. To the fourth official, it is so clear that the ball boys were delaying the game. It was difficult to understand the situation because if you're losing, the game multi-ball should be there. I'd love for multi-ball to happen. 10 or 15 minutes to go and you're down by more than 2. You get multi-ball. That'd be awesome. If it was until that moment, it should be there until the last minute of the game, but the decision was by the ref. So I was really upset with our performance. I didn't have the energy to start to complain. Premier League later confirmed that the multi-ball system was withdrawn after 79 minutes. Andoni Iraola denied Silva's suggestions. The ball boys had been asked to delay restarts. Quote, there is no instruction, I can guarantee. Because Iraola had the touchline ban, and so he had to watch from the stands at the Vitality. I prefer to be on the bench. I will try to improve my behavior, and I try to control it a bit more because I haven't enjoyed the experience, although maybe they don't need me so much. Very well. And so Bournemouth right now, they've won their 6th and 7. Talk about how hot they are. And Bournemouth is above Chelsea. Sorry, Michael Head. So you end up with full points for Bournemouth yesterday. And like I said, it looks like Bernd Leno is going to escape any kind of further discussion. The craziest match of the day, well, actually, we had 3 of the 5 actually were pretty crazy. Liverpool and Burnley was not. Liverpool won at 2-0. But Sheffield and Luton at the bottom of the table, and I know a lot of folks will sit there and go, okay, yeah, it's at the bottom of the table. Why should I watch? Well, we told you that it was going to be something akin to one of those relegation 6-pointers. And it lived up to it. I mean, you had 2 OGs at the end And Luton ends up getting full points after their big win. Before this, they are ruling festive fixtures, 2 wins in a row. So they were up 1-0. Then Ollie McBurney and Ahmed Hadzic scored for Sheffield United to make it 2-1. Then 2 own goals by Jack Robinson and Slimani, 4 minutes apart. Luton up 1-0, down 2-1, back up 3-2 for the win. Big win for them. Big win for Luton. So that one had crazy attached to it. And then Manchester United and Aston Villa had its own batch of crazy attached to it. Villa was up 2-0 after 26 minutes. They scored 2 goals in a 5-minute span, 21st and the 26th. Then Garnacho scores 2 and 12 to tie it with 20 to go. And then Rasmus Højlund scores in the 82nd. So they completely and totally flipped the script to go to 10, 1, and 8. It literally took them 18 matches to tie their first one. Literally took them 18 matches to tie their first one in the season. But so 3 of the 5 yesterday were crazy. Today, 3 matches. 2 at 2:30 Eastern, 1 at 3:15. Brentford and Wolves, Chelsea and Palace, followed by Everton and Manchester City. Contributor Niall thinks it could be interesting with those 2, considering the Premier League form of both teams. Getting into the juice boxes of these particular matchups. And I know we've got some Manchester United stuff that we got to talk about and sort through because there's a lot. Brentford and Wolves. Brentford is a plus 110 at the G-Tech with Wolves visiting at a plus 266. Chelsea on the minus side, minus 143, hosting Palace at a plus 408. Everton at home at Goodison Park is a plus 503 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Manchester City coming to town at a minus 172. And Pep Guardiola has reminded folks, go ahead and doubt us. We'll learn you. So something that you should never do, never, ever do, is question anything coming from Pep Guardiola. So, yes, do not question Pep Guardiola about anything that he says. But we did talk about yesterday, in the last 20 years, I believe, only once has a team outside of 4th come back to win the Premier League, is that they were behind at festive fixtures. And that was Manchester City when they were 8th. They came storming through and had that massive run of like 11 billion matches in a row where they were unbeaten. So, 45 minutes ago, Echeverry and Manchester City have agreed on the $25 million deal that we were talking about in Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. Bernd Leno is set to avoid an FA action after pushing the ball boy. And we have to have our new rent. We don't, but we still end up having them anyway. Yeah, Tom, you will definitely take a draw right now against Manchester City. Had another round of stupidity down here yesterday. And it's from both the PA and the Guardian. Luton Town have confirmed South Yorkshire police are investigating an alleged racist comment towards Carlton Morris in their win at Sheffield United. Club statement, quote, "We can confirm that Carlton Morris reported an alleged racist comment from the crowd during this afternoon's Premier League fixture at Bramall Lane. Carlton reported it to the match officials in line with Premier League protocols, and the matter was dealt with immediately by both Sheffield United and South Yorkshire police, who are currently investigating. Luton will offer Carlton and any other player suffering abuse our full support and would like to reiterate that we take a zero-tolerance stance against all forms of discrimination, whether in person or online. We would like to thank both Sheffield United officials and the police for their swift actions in dealing with today's incident," end quote. Rob Edwards, who's the manager for Luton, said Morris complained of a comment from a member of the home crowd late in the second half, which left the forward quote, "pretty angry," end quote. Edwards says, quote, "There was an alleged racist comment. The police are dealing with that. They've spoken to Carlton and got his take on it, so it is with them now. I have no more comment on it. He's all right. He was, at the time, pretty angry, but he seems fine now." Chris Wilder, the manager of Sheffield United, said there was a comment that was made. Referee came over to speak to me and Rob from a racial point of view, which is obviously not great
if found to be the case, end quote. Morris was seen talking to Sam Allison and the fourth official on the sidelines. Later, the Luton striker said he reported the incident straight away. Allison became the first black referee to officiate a Premier League match in 15 years, taking charge of the game at Bramall Lane on Tuesday. Morris told Prime Video, Premier League have been great at telling us protocols and explaining that to us. I heard something from the crowd in the front row. Unfortunately, I just knew it was to get that reported straight away and let them deal with it from there. So that's your round of stupidity down here. And we mentioned everything going on with Manchester United. Friend of the network and golden ticket holder Ben Jacobs has a couple of pieces on Jacobs. The final percentage, if the completion of the process goes to plan, will be just over 29% ownership. 25% from the Class B shares, which was agreed. So the 25% agreed to. And the Class A tender, which is ongoing. Just over 4% from his injection of $300 million into the club. It's been the plan for months to take the extra shares in return for Ratcliffe's initial investment. So 25% or 17% of the Glazer B shares and up to 25% or 17% of the A shares. The latter process is a tender and forms the part of the 6 to 8 week completion process. Ratcliffe is expected to be in for February. He will have Class B voting power, meaning he'll have around a quarter of the voting power from those shares. And as revealed, there is no obligation for the Glazers to sell any further shares, but Ratcliffe is hopeful of increasing his stake over time. There is no, according to Jacobs, put and call clause, which was in a previous structure when Ratcliffe wanted a majority. However, Ratcliffe does have a first refusal should the Glazers wish to sell. Ratcliffe will gain sport control, not via a panel with any Glazer on it. John Reese and Rob Nevin will sit on the PLC board, and Dave Brailsford, who was at the match yesterday. Ratcliffe was not at the match yesterday with Aston Villa. Brailsford was. Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc will be on the UK board. $300 million investments, all from Ratcliffe's own funds. $200 million paid once the transaction is complete, and a further $100 million in 2024. And this is expected to be towards short-term Old Trafford improvements. We talked about yesterday New Trafford, which could be on the books to help out what is viewed as a building in Old Trafford that is pretty much either rapidly approaching or is past its sell-on date when it comes to being a facility worthy of Premier League competition. Ratcliffe is already aware of Manchester United's January plans, even if he can't influence them. Ratcliffe also likely to speak to media and fans in the new year. Ineos' commitment to Nice remains, although they are aware of the UEFA rule, and there's a feeling that a solution can be found if necessary. So it's 8% of the Class A shares, according to Jacobs. Also on the board from Jacobs, Ineos must be consulted on any action that would require their consent post-closing. The Glazers must stick to the disclosed transfers plan. So there is a transfer plan in place. There is a transfer plan in place for January. Or again, consult Ineos if they deviate from it. This includes player purchases, loans, and, quote, appointing, dismissing, or accepting the resignation of any director of football or first-team manager, end quote. So, if they're really mad at Erik ten Hag, then the Glazers have to stick to the transfers plan in January or consult Ineos, Ratcliffe, Brailsford, whomever, if they plan on deviating from it, and that includes director of football and first-team manager. So if they're mad about Erik ten Hag and they want to change direction, then they have to consult Ratcliffe, Ineos, Brailsford, etc., while all of these other things are still going on in line. Ratcliffe is already aware of January plans, But according to Jacobs, naturally, all windows are unpredictable, and these terms give him some sporting say now, even in pre-closing. So your required reading today will be at Ben Jacobs on the 280 character app. So let me put Ben's handle in the Twitch pitch here, so everybody can reference. If you want to go down this rabbit hole and chase after what Ben has been able to piece together when it comes to the sale of Manchester United, Ben is a must follow for European football. Got to catch up with Ben and got to recommend some great places for Ben to eat while he was here for Summer Series. So he has the section available for the January discussions, and if there's any kind of different ideas that need to come from Manchester United as a board right now. So he's got all of that stuff locked up for you. Another couple of pieces of news. Chelsea will consider offers of 45 to 50 million pounds for Conor Gallagher. It's clear Mauricio Pochettino values him. Gallagher is content to fight for his place, meaning Chelsea won't be looking for any cut price sale. It's understood Spurs late last window wanted to spend around 35. So Michael Head, it is Conor Gallagher with a mark of 45 to 50 million when it comes to anybody in the January window interested in Conor Gallagher. And Brighton's Kaoru Mitoma will likely miss the Asian Cup with an ankle injury after Roberto De Zerbi confirmed he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. The tournament runs from January 12 to February 10, and the earliest Mitoma is expected back being late January. So it would make sense from that particular perspective that Mitoma would have an issue in returning in time for the Asian Cup. Just the logistics of the calendar would have a problem in making sure that he would in fact be there and be ready to make sure that Mitoma is there. So once again, if you don't follow Ben Jacobs, I would wholly suggest following Ben Jacobs as a part of all of this. And it was mentioned in The Guardian yesterday when it comes to Manchester United. It looks like that there may be job losses for the front office. It appears that as many as 300 folks could lose their jobs when it comes to the new Ineos-owned Manchester United. So keep an eye on that and see if they look at folks who are I guess redundant, I think is the word I'm looking for. But we always look at redundancies. And so keep an eye on the redundancies or admitted redundancies that are attached to Manchester United under this new administration. So we'll see what happens involving that. But it looks like it is a threat of downsizing. So you're looking at redundancy lists and possibly as many as 300 folks losing their jobs when it comes to Manchester United. There was another story having to do with the lower divisions, and there's another piece of NWSL news I wanted to get into before what to watch, where to watch it, and all of that. And I've got to find it here once again. When you are a computer down, you're trying to find things, it turns into a little difficult, but it has to do with lower divisions in England. So keep an eye on this story. And once again, since we're on Manchester United, says the Glazer family will have pocketed more than 1.3 billion pounds from share sales and dividend payments once the deal is fully completed. Set for a cash windfall of around 750 million pounds from the sale of the B shares to Ratcliffe, provided the deal gets the regulatory go-ahead from the Premier League and the club's Class A shareholders in the coming weeks. The Glazers have already earned around 465 million pounds through past sales of A shares and around 150 million in dividend payments. Once again, that adds up, netted in excess of 1.3 billion pounds during their 18-and-a-half-year reign at United. Should the Ratcliffe deal get the green light, the 6 Glazer siblings own just over 110 million B shares. So a sale of 25% of those shares at the agreed price of $33 a share stands to net the family around $909 million. 241-page regulatory filing with the New York Stock Exchange on Tuesday night, within minutes of the final whistle. And it was the hostile takeover back in 2005 for 790 million pounds. The Class B shares, which have 10 times the voting rights of the A, have been owned entirely by the Glazers and would ordinarily convert into A shares on sale by the family. But the deal with Ratcliffe has involved legal changes that permit the transfer of B shares to the founder, Ineos founder, without conversion, and are expected to reduce the Glazers' overall shareholding to around 49%. So that's the early rounds on that. Newcastle's confident that they can seal a Calvin Phillips loan deal that is a part of this. Let's see. What else was I? Oh, it was the lower division. The lower division story in the Telegraph, and I've got to see if I can find it now, considering what they do on the app as they purge things. And then they make you try to find things the next day, and it makes it difficult because, we're talking about me here. So it's traditionally hard, but it was the rescue package for the lower divisions is what I wanted to get into specifically here. And it has to do with the Premier League and the numbers and the percentages and folks balking about all of it, which once again is not necessarily a surprise. But let's see, Sir Jim. So, of course, I can't find it. Naturally, I can't find the story that I want to talk about. And former Liverpool sporting director Julian Ward is in the running for the sporting director role at Manchester United as well. So, spot me a second. Let me see if I can find the. And we talked about that. We talked about Saudi Arabia opening up their bylaws and their rules to try and figure out how they can bring in more people, of course. So if I can't find it, then I can't find it. And so once again, that would be me just kind of fishing around, trying to find something that I thought I would want to talk about, but apparently now I can't. You got to love that. All right. So anyway, keep an eye on the Pyramid Rescue Package and how folks are not happy. The folks at NWSL Boston have put their proposal together in a more detailed proposal about where they want to have everything laid out when it comes to property and facilities and all that kind of stuff. Our friends at the Blazing Musket have, no, not Blazing Saddles. I literally typed in Blazing Musket for my search, and so, of course, it gives me Blazing Saddles. No, I don't want Blazing Saddles. I love the movie, but that's not what I was referencing because it has nothing to do with the story that I wanted to talk about with NWSL Boston. NWSL Boston and Governor Lepedemain, they have nothing in common, nothing that I'm aware of, unless you're trying to sit there and try and find a dime. They submitted the project's notification form and new stadium renderings to city planning. It's from Sam Minton that came out yesterday. Project notification form submitted to Boston Planning and Development Agency. NWSL Boston fans got their first look at what the renovated White Stadium could look like. West Grandstand component, Grove area, all that kind of stuff. Boston Unity also claims the renovation will create over 500 jobs during renovation and construction, 300 new permanent jobs when it comes to what NWSL Boston is looking to do. So we'll add that to the Twitch pitch and requested required viewing. Yes, it is exactly that. Excuse me while I. Yes. Cleavon Little, amazing actor. Great movie. Okay, so before we go, what to watch and where to watch it. Gene Wilder, underrated in that particular role. So what to watch and where to watch it today. Obviously, we discussed what's going on in the Premier League. So Wednesday, 3:15, it is Everton and Man City on both USA and Universo. The Plus has Anderlecht and Cercle Bruges. Keep an eye on Tejan Buchanan going to Club Bruges, by the way. That's at 2:40. Hibs and Hearts at 3 on Paramount Plus. Brentford and Wolves, Chelsea and Crystal Palace, they're both on Peacock at 2:30. So that is what to stare at and what to watch, where to watch it. And thank you once again. Thanks to Dylan Butler for hanging out with us today. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us today. Back at it tomorrow. I'll try to grab Nico Moreno at 10:30, as we always do, for his last visit for the calendar year, and we'll discuss stuff. That's the official term. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for hanging out with me here as we were suffering the buffering in South Alabama for the extra day. We'll be back in Office HD tomorrow, and we will continue to discuss things as we do. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with us, as you always do, here on SDH. Toward the end of the calendar year. So for everybody here at SDH, thanks for hanging out with us. For Jarrett, for Jason, for Nick, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us. Play it safe, mucho platiel. It's the end of the show, so that means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning.